I've missed a few that I know of. 1. A girl asked me, "How tall are you?" I replied, "How tall am I? What does that mean?" 2. A girl staring at my crotch said, "It looks like you have a big package." I replied, "Oh." 3. A girl asked me, "If you're available, I could use a hand wrapping Christmas presents at my house tonight." I replied, "I'm not very good at wrapping, sorry I can't." 4. A girl behind me in line looking at my but said, "Those jeans look really good on you." I replied, "Thank you, I just got them from JCPenney, I think." 5. A girl invited me to her house. I went and spent the night in her room. I stayed awake all night thinking, this is so boring. Why aren't we playing video games or anything? You're literally just sitting on your bed in your pajamas. What did you invite me for? I can't wait to go back home. Story 1. A girl said it is cute when guys make the first move. She also told me she is single. I wondered why she was telling me this. Story 2. I admit that I am clueless. A young woman at the eyeglass store was helping me choose a pair. She said, "Oh, you look so handsome in those. They bring out your beautiful green eyes. Let's try on a few more." While she wrote up the order, she asked me about the motorcycle helmet in my hand. She said, "What do you ride?" "I've never been on a motorcycle before." I replied, "Oh, they're fun." She asked, "Do you have a spare helmet with you?" I said, "Yes." She continued, "What are you doing after ordering your glasses?" I answered, "I'm going home." She asked, "You're not hanging around the center?" I replied, "No." She said, "There are some nice coffee shops nearby." I responded, "Oh, okay." She said, "I get off work in 15 minutes." I said, "Good for you." She added, "I have an apartment not too far away." I remarked, "That's convenient to work." She asked, "Are you going to get coffee in the center?" I answered, "No." She questioned, "Are you sure?" I said, "Yes, I'm sure. Thanks for your help." Yes, I am clueless. Story 3. My best miscue is when a girl I liked invited me over to watch a movie with her, as we did every Friday night, but this time she said she wanted to watch something else. The content she put on was porn. I did not say anything as I was kind of shocked. She noticed I was getting erect watching this and asked, "Do you want to go watch this in my room?" I said, "No thanks." We remained friends, but later when we were hanging out, we talked about that night and how she was trying to get me to make a move to ask her out. Story 4. I call it the when the pursuer becomes the pursuee, he has no clue what to do syndrome. It has happened to me a lot. Once, I asked a girl for a cigarette, and she shoved an open pack in front of my face. One cigarette in that pack was upside down. She said, "If you take that one, you'll have to have sex with me." Guess which cigarette I took? Story 5. I am in my late 40s and I have a list that is very long. In fact, I have probably forgotten more than I can remember. Story 6. I was playing on my Xbox, and one of my brother's friends asked me where she could sit. There was an entire sectional where she could sit, so I pointed that out. She said she didn't want to sit there and sat on my lap. I continued playing video games. Later that night, she said she had sex with a guy who looked just like me on a table just like this. My first thought was, what a lucky guy. What a weird thing to bring up. Is she trying to make me feel jealous? Not for a second did I think she was implying she wanted to have sex with me. I thought the whole thing was very bizarre, so I told a friend the story. He called me a dumbass and pointed out the clear signs she wanted to have sex. Story 7. My wife confessed that she got a big kick out of the frustration waitresses had when flirting for tips had no effect on me because I simply never noticed. She says that before we got married, she also saw people in our social circles express an interest, but I simply never noticed any of that. Story 8. Back in high school, I got the courage to ask my lifelong crush to homecoming. We went to homecoming, left early, and then went for a night drive during which we started talking intimately. She mentioned that she would go as far as third base before college. I replied, "Oh, nice. Third base would be fun." I never acted on it. 15 years later, it hit me though. I still kick myself over that one. Story 9. A girl in high school in 2008 to 2009 posted online that she wanted a man in a suit and tie to make dinner together. I thought she meant a fun game of dress up and pretend. I told her I was down for it, and the evening came. I don't remember what we cooked. She brought up past sexual encounters while we ate. She already knew I was a virgin. Next was making dessert. Not that kind of dessert. We made homemade whipped cream, and I, being oblivious, thought it would be funny to throw whipped cream at each other. She was not amused and slapped me. After she cleaned up, we watched anime. She asked if we had any alcohol. I grabbed the Philippine rum because that was the only alcohol I really liked. 10 minutes later, she asked me to kiss her. I was shocked and froze. After an awkward silence, I nervously rambled, wanting to pretend it was the alcohol speaking. She was upset, and after awkwardly finishing the show, I offered to drive her home. She told me her friend was picking her up. Later that night, she apologized and said she didn't mean to make me uncomfortable or upset. I apologized for the awkward evening. We were still friends after that. Story 10. A girl came into my room while we were drinking, and I was just about ready for bed. She knocked, came in, and shut the door. She asked if I needed anything, and I said, "Oh, a cup of water would be great. I'm feeling dizzy." She came back with the water. Now her jacket was off, and her breasts were right in my face. I was so excited about the water I drank it. And she asked, "What else can I help you with?" I did not get the clue, so I said, "If you wouldn't mind turning off the lights on your way out, that would be nice." Story 11. I was in first grade and this girl whispered in my ear, "I have a question." I was nervous and said, "Okay, what?" Then she kissed me on my cheek. My answer was, "I don't know, that's kind of like a statement." I replay that in my mind and always wonder what the meaning was. Story 12. I had a female roommate in college that I had a crush on. I never acted on it or talked about it because she had an on-again, off-again boyfriend, and I wanted to be respectful rather than a cliché. On multiple occasions, she came into my room asking if her outfit would be good for her boyfriend, seeking a guy's perspective. More often than not, the outfit was lingerie and not of the modest variety. I always responded with, "Yeah, he'll love that," and changed the subject or moved on. Multiple times, she climbed into my bed with me to get warm while wearing these outfits, and I never even thought about making a move. About 2 decades later, it hit me. Story 13. I'm 52 now, a fit and healthy 52, and 2 years divorced. I swear, there were many times I was blatantly hit on when I was married. I was always a very good husband in that regard and politely declined. Once, during the breakup, I was in line at Panda Express and I ordered a lot for me and my kids. A well-heeled woman in her 70s said, "Wow, that's a lot. You're definitely going to have leftovers. Or I could just make you breakfast in the morning." That was nice. Story 14. There was a girl in middle school who was totally awful to me for years. She called me the scummy because she thought I was scum and I had a bit of a lisp at the time. Clever. I was later told that she had a crush on me. Ha. Story 15. A woman I knew one night wrapped her arms around my neck, leaned in close, and asked in a quiet voice if I ever felt lonely. My response? Sometimes. Then I waited for her to continue talking, and there was a good half-minute of silence before she excused herself and disappeared. A cute brunette opened the conversation with, "Do you have a wife?" When I said no, she sat down and started talking, saying things like, "You're the only real man in this place tonight," and "I'm really into guys like you, who do their own thing." She went home disappointed. A hot redhead waved me over, and when I got there, she grabbed my hand, put it on her chest, and told me she needed protection from all the clingy men around her. I took my job as a shield seriously and ignored where my hand was. This scenario repeated 4 times, and after the 4th time, she called me an idiot and left. A group of 4 girls approached me and asked me to dance, taking turns grabbing my waist. One of them showed me a move to set someone up for a kiss. Then another pulled me away for a little privacy while the others encouraged me to make a move. I left her innocence intact but probably disappointed. At a Halloween party, a nice blonde, asked me to dance. We danced for a while. Then she turned around and started grinding against me, while putting my hands practically on her crotch. When I didn't get it, she gave me a peck on the cheek, told me I was the nicest guy she had met all night, and disappeared. I saw her leaving with another man later that night, and I imagine he wasn't quite as nice as me. A very hot, high-class brunette, dressed in designer clothes, came up and said, "I have a beer waiting for me, but I just wanted to say hi. I'm her name." The next 5 minutes played out as follows. She tried to keep a conversation going, and I constantly reminded her she had a beer to return to. The fact that she asked me to dance later that evening and practically glued herself to me made me think that beer might not have been that important after all. Of course, this dawned on me an hour after I had gone home alone. Story 16. 1. Figure out by experience. 2. Lift with your legs. 3. I am more interested in unwrapping. 4. Laughing. I am more than a piece of meat, okay, not really. 5. Brother. Story 17. For anyone who was about to go looking, I scrolled back quite a ways and it does not appear that one, 2, or for have documentary evidence on his profile. Saved you the click. Story 18. Oh, you have a banana chair? I've always wanted to have sex on one of those. My reply was, yeah, that does sound fun. You should buy one. In my defense, I was very drunk. Story 19. Give yourself a break. Just because you are a man does not mean you have to pounce on every opportunity to have sex. The first two could be sexual harassment based on context. Be okay with passing on poor opportunities to have sex. It is a really brutal double standard that leaves good guys confused and conflicted. Story 20. In reference to number 1, for context, I am 6 feet 5 inches tall and wear size 15 shoes. I often joke about how I am 6 feet 5, have big hands, size 15 shoes, and then, while pointing at my crotch, say God's practical joke. It's like a tic-tac down there. Depending on the crowd, some people who know the truth do not hesitate to call me out for putting my business out there. When those people are not present, it often leads to disbelief and others having to find out for themselves anyway. Story 21. My favorite story is from when I was in my early 20s. I was on a work trip in another city and started talking to a woman journalist on the shuttle bus from the convention center to our hotel. We continued talking at a table in the hotel lobby for hours. She had mentioned earlier which room she was in, but I thought nothing of it. The conversation ended as it got late, and for some reason I said I would stay a few more minutes. Only after she was out of sight and already on the elevator did I realize she had left her room card on the table. Thinking she had just forgotten it, after finishing what I was doing, I returned it to the man at the front desk. He had been there the whole time, clearly observing the conversation, or rather, flirting for hours. I still didn't realize at the time, but in hindsight, the man was giving me a very obvious "are you foolish?" reaction for doing the right thing and returning the card. I don't think I fully understood what was going on until the next morning. Story 22. This double standard frustrates me. The man can have agency. Just because the woman wants sex does not mean you have to give it, and that is okay. Believe it or not, it happens in the other direction quite often. Nobody ever says the women are missing cues. Story 23. She whispered in my ear that she needed intimacy. I told her she was young and cute and would soon find someone. It was years before I understood. Story 24. I miss cues literally every single time. The last time, I flew a few hours to spend the weekend with a friend's sister, who drunkenly asked me one night what my safe word was. I responded that I don't have one since I am a gentle lover and haven't needed one. Then we watched part of a movie, and I regretted all of my existence until I went home, where the existential crisis amplified. C'est la vie. Story 25. I like looking at my Facebook memories to remind myself how awkward I used to be. Time and time again, one specific girl would reply to all my posts. Story 26. All of them. I will never be able to pick up on them. Girls are too subtle. This is why the only way I have been able to find success is either with women who are overt or with women I choose to pursue. I am not a detective. Cues and clues are not helpful. Story 27. I just found a middle school yearbook. I was reading the inscriptions and found a really nice, obviously flirty message from a friend. She clearly liked him a lot. Thinking back on it, all the signs were there, but boys are bad at picking up signals. I reached out to her on social media and I am going to meet her and her husband for coffee soon. Story 28. The girl I used to drive to and from school complained that no one had asked her to the prom yet. I told her not to worry, that she was really pretty and someone was bound to ask her. I am an idiot. Story 29. Several instances, actually. To be honest, I grew up believing that I was not good looking, so I had very low self-esteem and could not understand why someone would be interested. Anyway, here goes. In high school, a cheerleader asked me if I wanted to learn swimming with her, and then go back to her place to dry off and relax since her parents were not there. I said, "Oh, kind of you to offer, but I can't swim, so no thanks." A girl climbed onto my bed, laid there, and gave me a seductive look. I asked her if she wanted to watch a movie like we had originally planned. Staying at a friend's house, I came back really late, and we slept in different rooms. In the morning, she slid me a note saying she could not sleep anymore, and asked if I wanted to hang out in her room because her parents were not there. After reading the note, I went back to sleep. Story 30. Coworker. You don't see me staring at you. Me. I thought we just happened to be making eye contact. We work in a house setting, so of course I'm going to see you all the time. I'm not thinking you looking at me is making a move. Story 31. I didn't miss the cue itself, but it might qualify anyway. Maybe 10 years and more miles ago now, I matched with an incredibly attractive woman. She was about 5 feet 6 inches tall, never been good at guessing weight, but may have been 220 pounds, mostly in her hips and thighs. To call her pear-shaped feels like an understatement. She also looked a bit like Audrey Hepburn in the face, with big brown doe eyes and full lips. She looked like if a beautiful girl went full raccoon in a bakery. Anyway, we matched and met at my favorite restaurant. Since it went so well, I invited her back to my apartment to watch a movie or two. She was eager and willing, so she followed me in her car the 25 minutes back to my place, and she chose to watch The Princess Bride. Great movie in general, also an excellent date movie. Made all the better when you're a handsome and charming fellow like myself. During the movie, she spun in her seat to place her jeans-covered legs on my lap. Initially, I just rested my hands on her legs but eventually started massaging them for her. I worked my way up from just above her ankles to her mid-thighs. If she could have purred, I would have heard it. As the credits started and Willie DeVille's storybook Love began to play, she took my right hand off her thigh and manipulated my finger so my index was the only extended one, licked that finger, and then started sucking on it while watching me. I didn't miss that cue. I did panic, though. This was a first date, first time meeting in person. We'd barely talked about sex prior to meeting. I was trying to be respectful, so inviting her over was not with the plan of sex. I mean, I am very sexual, too much for a large man, but even then, I'd kind of recently decided hooking up wasn't for me. I want something more substantial involving repeats, for starters. All that and more flashed across my mind like lighting a Christmas tree. Her mid-suck. I blurted out, "I'm looking for more than a hookup." Remembering it now, I don't know if I can adequately describe the look on her face. Confused is too bland. Perplexed is warmer. Incredulous is what I'll go with. It was only for a moment, though. She stopped sucking my finger to say, "I'm not," while smirking at me. Most hints could fly by without notice, but this was like dropping 10 pounds of desire in a 5-pound sack. To this day, I'm positive I could have saved it there. Yes, I found her attractive. Yes, I wanted to enjoy her company intimately, but I also wanted to cuddle and see if something more was there. Instead, I waited too long to speak, trying to figure out what to say that was on my mind. She got up to use the restroom, came back, dug into her purse, and made an excuse that a friend was calling her to leave. I get it. She lined up that cue for me, practically begged me to act, and I did not. When I went to get a consultation for gastric bypass surgery years ago, I was 19. I remember 2 nurses at the hospital who were incredibly friendly with me, to the point where it seemed strange. One was at the desk handling intake and paperwork, while the other took me back to the exam room. The desk nurse gave a lot of eye contact and repeated genuine smiles at me, while the exam nurse helped me up on the table when I wobbled as I stepped up awkwardly, got me water, and even checked on me after the consultation with the surgeon. Any of those things could be just friendly and professional, but I've experienced similar situations over the years, and these two gave me a vibe that seemed more than just friendly and professional. If I had to describe it, I sort of got the impression that they wanted to see more of me. I imagine they saw what I looked like as a large man and were able to picture what I'd look like after I lost about 150 pounds, and they liked it. I could be crazy, though. Right after graduating high school in 2007, I signed up for Facebook that summer and added about 500 friends between all the schools I'd attended, 12 in 12 years, and the early groups I joined. One of my former classmates sent me a message and told me she had a massive crush on me in school and said others did as well. I had no idea. None of them clued me in. I did not act on what she said at the time, partly because it wasn't mutual with her, and more importantly, she was married with a child, I believe. Story 32. I don't miss them. I choose to flirt in a way that makes her wonder if I am opening a door for her to continue. If she is interested, she remains engaged. Story 33. On a first date, we talked several times about her dogs. At the end, I walked her back to her place, and she asked me if I wanted to come upstairs to meet the dogs. I said no, it was fine, it was late. She then asked, "Do you want to come upstairs to have sex?" I still said no. Story 34. A girl staring at my crotch said, "It looks like you have a big package." I replied, "Oh, yes, this happened to me." I was too shocked to even respond. Story 35. This thread caused me to remember something I had totally forgotten about. Back in the day, when I was new to California and didn't know anybody, I used to go to San Francisco Chinatown every Sunday for dim sum. At this particular restaurant, Asia Garden, you could skip the usual hour-long line by going upstairs and sitting at a communal table. Normally, the other people at the table were all Chinese and likely did not speak English. I was just there for dim sum, so I didn't mind. One day, a woman around my age, not Chinese, was seated next to me. On impulse, I offered to share since you get more options that way. We ended up having a great conversation for an hour, talking about music, living in the area, and many other things we had in common. At the end, she said, "That was fun. Maybe we'll meet up again sometime." I said, "Yeah, that would be nice." And then I left and went home. I was about 3 blocks from the restaurant when I realized that all I had to say was, "Would you like to arrange it?" And I smacked my forehead against the steering wheel. I am not a smart man. Story 36. One time I was trying marijuana when I was single. I was really healthy and open to meeting a lady by chance. I was in the mall and passed this attractive, very healthy-looking lady dressed in all black, looking goth. I said to her, "Are you a witch?" She was shocked but stayed and talked to me for a few minutes and started to become interested. She asked, "Where do you work? What do you do for a living?" I got paranoid that she was going to try to ruin my career for being a creep. So I said, "Why? Are you going to report me or something?" Instant shutdown. She said goodbye as soon as possible. Could be on or off target, I still don't know. I don't recommend the pickup line, "Are you a witch?" Story 37. The one that still haunts me to this very day. While out of town, I went to a nearby town to hang out with an old girlfriend I hadn't seen in several years. We had a great time getting a few drinks, enjoying good food, spending time with her dog, and never ran out of things to talk about. At the end, she asked if I wanted to spend the night at her place so that I wouldn't have to drive back to the other town, but also because she had nothing else to do that night and would love the company. I replied, "Thank you, I appreciate that, but I don't mind the drive back over there." And then I gave her dog the biggest goodbye while all she got was a peace and wave gesture. Story 38. Reading those misses. Bloody hell original poster. Hope you have a good one now and are not missing as many cues anymore, or hopefully you found someone who just told you exactly what she wanted straight up. Story 39. I remember I spoke with 2 nice girls at a club. They seemed hungry and wanted to join me and my Polish friend outside at the pizza place across the street. So we went with them, smoking outside, and then went into the place. While ordering some late-night pizzas, both girls literally offered me to join them at their home for some private fun. I was young and inexperienced and answered, I would love to try you both. That's an amazing offer, for real. But my friend here is single and much sportier than me, and most importantly, I have a girlfriend, so I passed on it. They just said this boy loves one woman more than two hot girls. We don't want the other guy, but nice to meet you. Here are our numbers just in case. I was 18 years old back then and immediately thought that I would never get such an offer again. This was the chance for an experience to try being with two girls. Story 40. Way back when, a girl touched me in Spanish class, but I never took things further with her after going out that weekend. Another time, I used to visit a girl every night after work. We would get close but never fully connect. The only reason I lost my virginity was because a girl from my art class initiated after a party when she drove me home. If I hadn't been so shy and insecure back then, I probably would have done very well with the ladies. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.